Hello, I'm Shieldwall100 and welcome back to Gotham for another Batman Miniatures Game 3rd Edition game report. Apologies if today seems a little bit rushed or brief in terms of its duration. I'll see how that goes, but it's because I've been kind of constrained with recording time today. All of a sudden had to run out and surprisingly got my COVID jab. Only got a short amount of notice for it though. So yes, glad I got it done though. So yeah, make sure you get your jabs, people, when you get the chance. It's good for you and society. Anyway, let's carry on. Today's game is going to be the Bat Family, the team, which we've used once before, as opposed to the Batman full crew. So this is the team consisting of Batman and his most trusted followers, versus the Suicide Squad, another team which tends to focus on the low model count but high quality, albeit a little bit more chaotic in nature than the Bat Family's close-knit community. These guys are generally, the gist is more dangerous individually, but maybe work together a little bit less well. So yes, this should be an interesting one. Two relatively low model count crew, teams today, and should make it slightly more different to usual. Let's get on with it to see who's in which crew. But first, please do check out the description below for details of an offer from the web store, The Top Hatted Hamster. Gives you 10% off your first or next purchase. So there you go. Enjoy that, I hope, and let's see who's in which crew. Starting with the Bat Family, yes, this is about as small as teams can really go if you want to have a real crack at the rules, that is. I'd say 4 models is pretty much the minimum you want to go for. You can do less, of course, but then you are literally wasting Audacity tokens every turn, and I really don't think the game was built with that in mind. But yes, 4 models. In terms of my Bat Family teams, this is pretty much the standard, same one I took before with one exception. I've taken out Red Hood and I've added in Red Robin. He's a newer model and I want to see how he does. He's not as killy by any means. He's quite significantly less killy actually, but he is more interesting tactical wise. He's more mobile with the bat claw. He has the detective trait as opposed to the raw hitting power of Red Hood, who also has acrobat, but he also has a Kevlar. I think he also has hardened Kevlar vest or something like that. He's a lot tougher than Red Robin as well, so got to be a bit more wary with this crew than before. But still a lot of damage output across the whole lot of them. Batwoman there is the boss. She's a great all-rounder. Nightwing, another good all-rounder, but slightly less durable due to the lack of the bat armor. And Damian Wayne there, a good solid henchman type for his points, just not quite so as endurable as many others. But yeah, he's 10, so what are you going to do? In terms of purchasable war gear, Damien and Nightwing are both sporting a set of extra handcuffs from purchasable war gear, and Batwoman has got the additional magazine available for her batarangs, so an extra batarang for her. Okay, it should be interesting. I've set out the deck a bit. Damien gives you access to some of the League of Shadows cards, which are, a few of which have been sprinkled in amongst the standard Batman crew ones, and a couple I think from the generic deck too. Okay, let's move on and have a look at the Suicide Squad, Task Force X. A different look to the Suicide Squad that I took before is coming across in this particular game report. The ones that got torn apart by the Court of Owls have been changed around a little bit. So as you can see there, although a lot of the same names are in there, it's just different versions of the same models. So slightly different rules, and some of them are slightly buffed than others. But we'll see how they pan out. Okay, still only 5 models, so again, not very high model count. Should make it for a quicker, more fast-paced game though, and lots of character. None of these no-name henchmen lying around. Anyway, so leading the team, we've got Deadshot standing on top of that shipping crate. This is the Back to Gotham version, a version I'm much more familiar with than the Will Smith Deadshot that I used before, and he won't have armoured Lincoln marches bearing down on him this time. We'll see how that affects his performance. Next to him you can see Digger Harkness, otherwise known as Captain Boomerang, Australia's contribution to the DC universe. Yeah, he's quite useful, bit of an all-rounder, not particularly great at anything, but has some handy boomerang shots and things like that. Got some useful little traits, so I might help him with scoring as well, or also hinder him from scoring. He has the greed trait, which means he can't score victory points for damaging or hurting people, I think. But you know, what's he got, primary target loot or something? Yeah, primary target, which lets him use opposing suspect markers as his own, so that's quite handy. Right, Harley Quinn is in there. This time, the first time I think I'm using the Suicide Squad version from the film, The Suicide Squad, that is, as opposed to the one from Back to Gotham. Had the extra points, so thought I'd invest. She's much more, I think she's more powerful than the Back to Gotham one, and pretty useful model. She also has a gun, which is obviously a bit of a bonus. Next to her, Katana, using the third edition of Night Models releases, you know, for her, rather than the one that was included with the Suicide Squad set. This one, as we have seen from her use before, has much more potential for damage than the others, and yeah, she's no slouch by any means at all. A close combat powerhouse, if not necessarily the most durable model. She does, however, afford the team a bunch of Batman crew objective cards, so that might help them in their quest to score those points to stop their heads from popping. And finally, because I always seem to have just the right amount of points to put him in, we've got Killer Croc, the Suicide Squad version of that model. This time I'm hopefully not going to botch up where he put, you know, his use of the sewer markers. I knew it was in there somewhere, and yeah. Well, he's just generically quite tough. He's just not a pushover, able to do a bit of damage as well. And yes, that fifth model, you know, it's one more than the Bat family will have. So yeah, we'll see how that pans out. Okay, so yes, mostly a generic deck for this crew. I know the single biggest element is the generic deck. We've got 5 cards from the Joker crew in there and 6 cards from the Law Forces, I think, altogether, just to try and shake things up. Yes, that's how you. Building the deck is kind of crucial for the Suicide Squad, because they really need to have cards they can score quickly. Anyway, let's get on with setting up the board with light sources and sewer markers, and of course the models. Right, I shall see you in a minute. Okay, all sides set up and deployed. Okay, let's start with Task Force X. Killer Croc gets to deploy anywhere outside of his deployment zone as long as he's in contact with the sewer marker, so he gets to do that. Oh, sorry, this time I'm using Vanguard as the deployment zone, so 12-inch zones, and up to one model can be deployed up to 4 inches outside the deployment zone. So carrying on with that in mind, we've got Deadshot and Harley Quinn back here, and Captain Boomerang over on the boat for the Suicide Squad, with Katana having moved 4 inches out and into contact with that sewer marker there. So lots of potential movement early on for the Suicide Squad when they got those sewer markers nearby. For the Bat family, you've got Nightwing having deployed a little bit further forward at the top of this tower here, and the rest of the crew just down here in the shadow of it, out of sight, so they can't be picked. They had to deploy a bit. They were deploying a little bit earlier than the Suicide Squad, so they wanted to make sure they're out of sight of any long range shots and things. So you've got Batwoman and Damien in contact with the sewer marker, and Red Robin just sprinting along down there. Okay, nice and simple, nice and quick. Let's get on with turn number 1. Right, well, easy peasy lemon squeezy this turn. Take the lead and raise the plan have both been done, and there's only one card being played, and it's for the Suicide Squad. Die Hard has come out of the hand, we know that one. 2 points, and they've chosen Harley Quinn to be the recipient. If at the end of the turn she's still around, as in she's not KO'd or a casualty, that'll be 2 points for them. No cards played by the Bat family, they didn't get any in their hand yet, but I'm sure there'll be some cards played over the course of the turn. In terms of audacity counters, the Bat family is very easy. They have 4 models and 4 audacity, so 1 each. On the Suicide Squad, it was just a case of working out who didn't get one, and they had to go with Killer Croc. He's just the least dynamic of all of them at this point in time, but hey, as the game goes on, he'll probably get his chance to shine. Probably, maybe, but yes, as you can see, they've all got their markers for audacity just there. In terms of who's going first, actually, should tell you, using the Joker dice for Suicide Squad, so 6 for them and 2 for the for the Bat family means that the Suicide Squad will be going first. Okay, let's see who has it in them. Let's get this shindig started. Okay, Captain Boomerang took the first activation for the game. He had Audacity, if you recall, and he used that to move up the ship and then put down a suspect marker using his manipulate action. And of course, as you can see, he turned it into a snitch, one of the cards from the Batman crew deck that they can take because Katana's in the crew, the team even. I've seen it many times. This is one of my printed out versions since the Bat family using the actual cards. 3 points if that snitch marker has no one from the enemy team within 4 inches, looking like a tall order even for the very mobile Batman crew. Okay, so and yes, the Suicide Squad really need to score points, because if they don't reach, I think yes, it's 6 victory points by the end of turn 1. Someone's head explodes. Well, let's see what the Bat family is going to do. Nightwing activated first for the Bat family, and he used his Bat Claw to power forward a massive 19 inches onto the top of the distribution warehouse here, and as you can see, he's also put down a snitch marker with his manipulate action and the card from the hand. Sorry, there we are. 3 points. We just saw it. Same thing again. Again, Suicide Squad members have to get over here to stop it from scoring. It's much harder for them. They're not quite as mobile as the Bat family. Very few crews are, but yeah, so there you go. No offensive actions taken. Not many models can actually be inspired in this game because they're not henchmen. There's only Damien, I think, who actually qualifies. Unless I read the rules wrong, someone tell me if the team's rules allow like non-henchmen to be inspired, but I haven't read it, and I tried to find it before I started and couldn't, but hey, carry on. I'm going to carry on. It's going to affect both sides, so it's more or less equal. So there you go, there's Nightwing's activation. Both sides level pegging really in terms of their efforts. Deadshot at the back, but certainly not impotent there. He activated next. He had Audacity, as of course, and yes, he could draw a line of sight to Nightwing, who was cockily sitting on top of that distribution warehouse from his last movement. He was out of range of both of Deadshot's guns. Deadshot has night vision though, so he could easily see him, so didn't suffer any penalties for shooting, beyond his line of sight. He actually used his handguns, the 2 pistols, instead of his modified assault gun, because he was so only 1 die was lost from the pool when he opened fire on Nightwing, who's up here. Nightwing efforted 3 times. Deadshot activated rapid fire with his special action, so actually had 2 shots when all was said and done. 2 dice, shall I say. The strength die had been removed, and 3 of the other dice too, and so 2 left from the barrage of fire, 1 of which hit. It was a 1 and a 5, I think, was the roll, and yes, so that would normally be a point of blood and stun on Nightwing. However, from the hand, Deadshot and the Suicide Squad played non-lethal ammo to make that into 2 points of stun instead of a point of blood and stun, but it does convert that into 2 victory points nicely from the for the Suicide Squad. They need to score those points, and yeah, obviously Amanda Waller has decided that Deadshot doesn't quite need to be quite so deadly this time, and she's put some dummies in his guns. All right, okay, yeah. So that means that Nightwing actually takes 5 points of stun altogether, mostly from his own efforts to dodge the bullets. But fair enough. But yes, that does. He's taken some damage, but yeah, we'll see how that pans out over the course of things. 2 crucial points though for the Suicide Squad. Damian Wayne, the vicious little git, decided he'd go second for the Bat family, and yes, he activated. He didn't use the sewer he was next to, as it turned out. He decided to jet forward using his Bat Claw. So yeah, and yes, he's landed here. He's moved across from there, and he threw his batlings at Killer Croc, who was within short range. Being a throwing weapon, doesn't lose any dice for moving and shooting. However, he did because of Croc's tough skin. The strength die was up against it to score a hit, but the 2 normal dice both came through for Damien, and did 4 points of stun damage to Killer Croc. So yes, that's a pretty harsh lesson in standing around in the open that Killer Croc's just taken there. Damian Wayne still had his manipulate action left from being inspired by Batwoman since he started the turn next to her, and he used that to pop down a suspect marker. Nice and simple. Okay, right, that concludes Damian's turn. He didn't play any cards from the hand. Harley Quinn went next, and she moved up quite far. She's got some impressive 13-inch movement, and she used her tactical action to pop down a suspect marker, and as you can see, it doesn't look fresh, stinky fish. It's all-time Joker favourite. 2 points at the end of the turn if it's still on the board. Anyone trying to pick it up through revealing it will take poison for their troubles. And yeah, so there you go. Nice and simple. She's moving up into position for next turn, and yes, it's quite useful to do that because she's a powerful model. Batwoman activated for the Bat family. She also eschewed the use of the sewer marker in order to move up normally and use her tactical action to throw one of her remote control batarangs at Killer Croc, which knocked him out quite easily. Yeah, and yeah, so that concludes her turn. Bat family haven't had any cards to play yet from the hand. It's been quite frustrating for them. Haven't had quite the ones they need, but the ones they've got look pretty good for future turns, but they just need to stop the Suicide Squad from running away with it. But yeah, that concludes Batwoman's go for the turn. And a fairly quiet one for Katana too, finally. The last Suicide Squad member to be able to activate this turn since Croc got knocked out. She moved up from the sewer marker. No one really wants to use them. I guess it's because a lot of the models on this board are actually pretty fast anyway, and using a sewer marker, for most of the models at least, means that they can't then use a manipulate action or attack anyone. So actually not the huge bonus that it would be for, say, you know, clowns or mafioso or people who don't have acrobatic skills and things. Anyway, she moved up and she into the middle of the board, just give you an idea as to where she is in the grand scheme of things, and she popped down a suspect marker. I'm using the old counters from the Suicide Squad box set for the Suicide Squad to represent their suspect markers, just so you know. But there you go, that concludes her turn. And Red Robin took the last activation for the turn. He had a nice, relatively straightforward one. He moved out from there into the open. He then used his hacking ability to move the suspect marker that Damien had just put down into this space when he turned it into valuable commodities by revealing it with his tactical action. For 3 victory points, we've seen this so many times before, it turns the suspect into loot counter, which Red Robin will be carrying around. If it's still in the Bat family's possession at the end of the game, that'll be 3 points for them. So finally a few more points. Actually, what it'll also do with that hacking action from before is just move this light source a little bit further away from himself and Batwoman. So just like that there, just so he's not quite so illuminated for everyone to see and shoot at. Okay, although, I mean, Deadshot's got night vision, but the others don't. Right, let's move on and go to the recount phase. Okay, well, the recount phase just finished. It was relatively straightforward. Poor Killer Croc decided he was going to remain unconscious. Obviously one of those batarangs clocked him better than he thought. And yes, in terms of the Bat family, it was quite simple. It was just the snitch to look at, and yes, there is indeed scored for 3 points for the Bat family for their first scores actually for the game. In terms of the Suicide Squad, there was an awful lot. The Captain Boomerang's snitch card definitely worked out. Harley Quinn's fish is unmolested, and as well as Harley Quinn also being unmolested. So Die Hard scores for 2 points, the snitch scores for 3, the fish nets them 2, and also coming out of their hands, Stick to the Plan, one of the generic cards. Those have more suspect markers than the opponent in play. They have 3 suspect markers: the fish, the snitch, and the actual suspect marker itself that Katana put down. Whereas the Bat family only have their 1 snitch marker suspect in play. So yes, that's another 2 points. So to be honest, the Suicide Squad running away with this one with gusto. They've got enough points in the bag to stop people's heads exploding until turn 3 at this rate. Wow. And yeah, good for them. But yes, lots of time in the bag. This Bat family is very hard hitting. We'll see how things go on. They've already taken out 1 model. How long will it be before others fall? Okay, take the lead and raise the plan phase is complete for turn number 2 now, and easy enough to mention that no cards were played from either side's hand in either of these 2 phases, so objectives are quite straightforward this turn. In terms of who got the initiative, it's a resounding win for the Bat family, so they'll be going first this time. And in terms of audacity, it was even easier. Every model on the board has audacity because there's 4 models left conscious on both sides. So okay, let's carry on and get into activations. This turn should be an awful lot more, I'd have thought, more eventful than the last. Okay, Nightwing swung into action first. Well, he didn't swing actually, he was able to use his actual prodigious movement and his acrobatic skills to jump down from next to this suspect marker on the distribution warehouse into combat with Captain Boomerang. And yes, it was a fairly brief exchange. Nightwing is a pretty powerful character, even when he can only put 2 effort into increasing his attacks against the maximum effort that Digger Harkness put in himself to reduce the incoming dice pool. But he has combo with those sticks, and they do 2 stun damage each, and the mechanical rule makes the strength die a pretty good pretty good chance of hitting itself. So yes, overall it did 7 points of stun damage, and Digger's actual willpower is 6, sorry. So yes, he's knocked out. That's unfortunate. By doing so, Nightwing was able to score Lazarus Pit from the hand for 2 victory points, inflict a casualty or KO in melee more than 8 inches away from any other enemy model. And yes, Captain Boomerang's a little bit isolated here on his own, so yes, that definitely scores for 2 victory points. And Nightwing still has his special action, and he was given handcuffs at the beginning, so just to add insult to injury, he's going to arrest Captain Boomerang as well to take him off the board and out of the game. So yes, already the the Bat family, starting to get back into it. Although Nightwing is now left 1 willpower away from going unconscious. Ooh. So he's in a little bit of a pickle himself, but scored some points, and the Suicide Squad now reduced to 3 active models for this turn. Okay, Deadshot went next, and he activated with full audacity, of course, and he saw what happened to Digger and decided to take some revenge, even though he probably doesn't actually, I don't think in the comics he actually likes Captain Boomerang that much. But yes, he opened fire on Nightwing from his previous position back here on this crate. I gave Nightwing cover, of course, from the bits of the boat he was setting in, and Deadshot wasn't close enough to use his shooter ability to ignore the cover. Nonetheless, he activated his special action to get rapid fire and used his custom machine gun, a custom assault gun, I think is what it is, to open fire. He has expert marksman, which gives him +1 to hit, and Nightwing crucially didn't have any dice left to use he didn't have any effort, left to use his dodging skills. So yes, 3 dice. Unfortunately for Nightwing, all 3 of them hit, which means that 2 blood and 1 stun per hit is 6 blood and 3 stun. Not enough to kill him. He's 1 point off death. 1 point of blood damage more and he will be a goner, but more than enough to knock him out now, which is incidentally enough to score $1 million shot for Deadshot. For 3 lovely points. It's his trademark card, so only take that if he's in the crew. Make an enemy model with this leader, sidekick or free agent rank KO, or remove it as a casualty with a ranged attack, and he's just done exactly that. Yeah, it's a target-rich environment for Deadshot with this one, in this particular game, because pretty much most of the enemy actually are free agents, sidekicks, or leaders. It's only Damian Wayne who wouldn't count. But yes, Nightwing was certainly a prime target and certainly worth taking that shot. Having done that, he decided to advance up the board by just jumping from one crate to the other. And yes, that concludes his turn. The Suicide Squad, reduced to 3 men, 1 man and 2 women actually, are actually advancing still. Damian Wayne Robin activated next, and he had audacity, just the same as every other model does, and he simply moved across the planks into base contact with Killer Croc and decided to promptly put the cuffs on him, which suits him, and so that removes him from the board with the arrest action. Doing so allowed the Bat family to play Get Them Off the Streets from their hands, a lovely card for 3 points, easy enough, arrest a model. So 3 more points, both sides taking lumps out of each other and adding to their scores at the same time. He then used his batlings, his last round of ammunition of his batlings, to throw at Deadshot Deadshot, who has the dodging skill. I gave him cover due to the weird angle from the crate and Deadshot standing at the back of it, so that took one of the dice out, and Deadshot used 2 efforts to dodge the remaining 2 dice, so that's where those 2 stun markers came from. Those are Deadshot's dodging the tiny batarangs from the 10-year-old boy. Okay, I just remembered that Damian Wayne is inspired by Batwoman's presence at the beginning of the turn, so he still has his freebie manipulate action, and because he knows that the Suicide Squad could benefit from having more suspect markers than the Bat family out, he'll pop one of those down. Okay, so I'll pop one just there. I didn't quite forget, got there before the end of the take, and so I'll count it. Yeah, he'll pop that there. Okay, that concludes the Bat family's activation for Damian Wayne. Harley Quinn activated for the Suicide Squad next, and well, she took some revenge for Killer Croc as well. She moved into base contact with the young Damien there, and she used her confuse ability on him quite easily. It's an opposed willpower test on his willpower 5, so wasn't really holding many hopes for him passing that. Unfortunately, I don't have any confused markers, so I used distract instead, just to remind myself. It reduces his attack and defense stats by 1, which is actually quite useful, because it meant he was only defense 3 for when she tried to clobber him with her bat. He put a couple of effort in, and she put the 2 effort back, and overall managed to do well, that much damage to him. Actually, no, 2 hits got through. Sorry. Managed to do 6 damage to him, not 8. I'm not sure where I got 8 from. And yeah, and yes, so he is KO'd, unfortunately for him. She doesn't obviously have the ability to arrest him or anything, so he's going to remain KO'd. But she did score dirty job from the hand of the Suicide Squad. Only 1 point, but make an enemy model KO or a casualty. It's relatively simple to do, and there's no other criteria around it, so just the 1 point, but it does reward you for punishing the opponent, which is a good thing in this game. Too many times you're asked to do one or the other. You have to pass up abilities to take out enemy models in order to score points. This lets you do a bit of both. Batwoman took the next activation, and deciding that it would be better to try and stop Katana before she had a chance to go, activated her bat claw and leapt into combat, shall I say. Yes, putting maximum effort in on both sides. However, Batwoman had a bit of a bat whiff. Despite the fact her air combat makes her better when she's using her bat claw, she only managed to get 1 hit, and the strength die whiffed as well, but never mind. After all was said and done, 1 hit got through for 2 points of stun damage, which means that Katana is not incapacitated, but she is damaged nonetheless. She's only got willpower 7, so she's only 1 point off of going unconsciousness still. No, 2 points off going unconsciousness still, sorry. But yes, nonetheless, disappointing there for Batwoman. Right, no cards played from the hand. Let's carry on. Katana activated, and this is where she ended up. She was smarting quite heavily from Batwoman's attack, and despite the fact that they've been allies before, or at least she's been allies with their allies, she's generally on the good guy side. Katana wasn't one to hold back, and she'd actually put her adaptable point into attack this turn, thinking she'd get use of it, and funny enough, so she did. She first of all used her special action to feint against Batwoman, force it and put 1 effort into making it more likely. Batwoman failed the willpower test on an 11, and therefore couldn't put efforts in to stop the incoming attack, and despite the fact that there was a bat armor preventing the strength die from being used, nonetheless 2 attacks did get through. Like I said, Katana's on attack 5 for this particular round, so yes, 2 points of damage, two hits caused 4 points of blood damage on Batwoman there, so yes, a bit of an ouchie there for the crime fighter, but she started it. And yes, after that, Katana decided that discretion was the best part of valor. She's only 1 point off 1 point of stun damage off being knocked out herself, and there's too many models with a rest around, so she moved to this side of the shipping crate. It's not going to get her out of Dodge City, so to speak, for the purposes of Batwoman, for example, but nonetheless it does put her a little bit further away from Red Robin, who's the last model to activate this turn, and that's where we're going to go now. Red Robin activated next. He activated his back claw to be able to move over the fence here, over to here. He then used a detective ability to manipulate the suspect marker and reveal it for the Suicide Squad as my suspect marker, which was next to Batwoman. And yes, in so doing, he was able to comb through everything from the hand of the Bat family for 2 points. Easy enough, revealing every suspect marker. Allows them to cycle their deck and look for good cards as well. So yeah, there you go. 2 more points in the bag. And yes, Red Robin looking a little bit exposed there, but he's one of the only models on the board that hasn't actually taken damage yet, to my knowledge. So no, he hasn't. So yeah, he's now in the mix. Both crews pretty intermingled. Just, so yes, the game's really speeding up. But let's go to the recount phase now and see if anyone's got any last minute surprises for turn number 2. Okay, well, the recount phase finished for turn number 2, and nothing much happening in terms of scoring cards. Neither side have any which were, ticking away from the during the course of the turn, and neither side played any from their hands either. So a pretty low scoring turn compared to last one anyway. And more importantly, neither Robin, Damian Wayne Robin at least, or Nightwing over there managed to recover from KO. Not surprising for Damien, but a bit disappointing for Nightwing. He could have done with him, but that said, he's only he's only willpower 7, endurance 7, sorry. So it wasn't guaranteed by any means. Only slightly more chance than not. But yeah, I mean that's the problem with these small, Bat family-esque crews. And when you do fail to get those models back, it's a problem. They've only got 2 models to go forwards into turn 3 with now. Speaking of which, let's carry on and go forwards into turn number 3. Okay, pretty pivotal turn this one, with only 2 models on the Bat family crew sitting pretty exposed there, but nonetheless, let's see what's going on. In terms of the first 2 phases, they're both done now. For the cards played from the hand, From the Shadows came out from the Bat family crew. It's the one they pilfered from the League of Shadows deck due to Damien's presence. Played it now and scores at the end. If they they have to nominate an enemy model and make that model a casualty this round. And yes, there were some options. Obviously for them, they have to arrest the model, so that means Batwoman will have to be doing it. She's the only model on the board with arrest at the moment. They had to choose an enemy model, and from them it would have been easier to go for Katana because she's a deadly model, or because she's only 2 points of stun away from going unconscious now. But they chose for Deadshot because he's just too damn dangerous to be left on the board. And so yeah, they were planning. He's not really a really tough target when you attack him in close combat anyway. Not this version of him. And so yeah, they went for Deadshot, thinking that if they they needed the initiative. Basically, they were gambling on getting the initiative, and unfortunately for them, it didn't happen. With a 6-5 loss. I always do the cards before I roll for initiative in this. Actually, incidentally, that's why when I played this, I had to make a decision as to who to target, because I didn't know who was going to be going first. So yeah, that was it. Unfortunately, then they lost the initiative, so the Suicide Squad will be going first. We'll see how dangerous that is for them. Oh well. Yeah, but that's it. So no objectives cards playing in the hand. In terms of audacity, it was very simple. Everyone has got a point of audacity. So let's get on and continue this bloodbath. Well, after what I said just now, it would have been silly not to activate Deadshot. He is a very powerful model in his own element, and boy is he in it right now. He used his modified assault gun on Batwoman, the only model that really posed a serious threat to him, because Red Robin, the other guy on the board, doesn't seem to have that much damage output really, but we'll see. Yes, and he used his modified assault gun. He lost a die for the bat armor that Batwoman wears, but he activated his rapid fire ability again in order to get 4 shots, hitting on 3s after his expert marksman, 3 of which hit and did 6 points of blood and 3 points of stun to Batwoman, which is more than enough to finish her off after Katana attacked her last turn. Yep, horrible. Doesn't actually score any cards from the hand for the Suicide Squad. Doesn't have another dirty job hidden in there or anything like that. This was pure spite and the ability to really mess over the opponent. So yeah, there you go. It's that's a hammer blow to the Batman crew. They've just lost their leader, their boss model. Red Robin has to take over. I guess is the only conscious model left. So there you go. Okay, let's carry on and see what if anything can be salvaged from the turn for the Bat family. Well, taking Red Hood in the list may have been better for getting some much needed revenge on the Suicide Squad, but Red Robin has a little bit more nous in him than that, and rather it was tempting to perch him on top of this crate, activate 360-degree attack and attack both Katana and Deadshot and try and get some stun damage. May even have had an outside chance of knocking Katana out, despite the fact she's defense 5 for this turn due to her adaptable rule. Overall, it wasn't looking altogether good for him there, so he backed off and put down a snitch marker with the card snitch. Don't forget he's a detective, so he can place the markers 3 inches away, which is what he did, and so that does make it difficult for the Suicide Squad to catch up to him, especially if they want to go off and do their own thing. But yeah, so he might have got 3 points there for the Bat family. We'll find out, because now it's the rest of the Suicide Squad to move. Right, I just concluded the Suicide Squad's activations, and yeah, it's quite interesting. I went with Katana first. She ended up over here. She just moved and revealed the Stinky Fish, which is which was the suspect marker that Harley Quinn put down last turn. She gets poisoned for that, but it does turn it into valuable commodities. There's my backup auxiliary valuable commodities token. So it's the same one that Red Robin's charging around with for 3 victory points. She needs to be holding that at the end of the at the end of the game. Well, easy enough. She ought to have done it now, because this is the last turn that she could actually play it. You see that last line, this objective cannot be played after the 3rd round, so yeah, she wanted to get that done nice and quick. But yeah, stinky fish into treasure. I guess the phrase goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Yep, obviously Katana really needs that fish. Okay, moving on. Harley Quinn activated last, and she put a couple of efforts into beating the living snot out of Damian Wayne back here, and he took 5 points of damage. There's her 2 effort. I'll pop that on her character card in a moment. She needed those 2 extra though, because she just managed to do it, and yes, he's dead. He's gone, allowing her to play dirty job. Very dirty job indeed, beating a 10-year-old with a baseball bat while he's unconscious for 1 victory point. Yeah, so making every model KO or casualty, and she just did. So yes, some more points on the board there. She then moved into cover behind the little hut here. She couldn't get close enough to deny the snitch marker for the Bat family, but she's in a good position for next turn. Okay, let's move on. And before anyone gets upset, I mean, if out of all the 10-year-olds, I think he's 10, sometimes he's 12, who knows, sometimes he's 16, it depends on where you want him. Out of all the 10-year-olds in the world you might want to beat up, Damian Wayne's the one you want to do. Okay, right, so let's carry on. Okay, the 3rd turn's recount phase is now complete. From the shadows for the Batman crew did not, Bat family, sorry, team did not score, because Deadshot was not the, well, not only was he not the first model to be taken out by the Bat family, there were no models taken out by the Bat family. So yeah, bit of a letdown there for them. But however, Red Robin's snitch marker did score. So yes, by dint of him being able to get nice and far enough away, that does score 3 points for them, so keeps them potentially in the game, I hope. Maybe, we'll find out. And yeah, in terms of everyone who had some stun damage took 1 point of it off, and Nightwing came back from being unconscious, so he is back in the swing of things. Okay, let's move on to turn 4 and see who can win that last, who can get those last few points. Okay, the take the lead and raise the plan phases of the last turn are both now complete. Neither side had any caster play in either of the 2 phases. Nothing from their hands. It's all being played out in the 3rd phase by the look of it. And in terms of who got the initiative, the Bat family has it again for the last turn. Not sure it's so important this turn, but it's always useful to have. And Audacity, it's everyone on the board again. So Red Robin and Nightwing, and Harley Quinn, Deadshot and Katana. Right, let's get on with this then and see who can score those last few cards. Nightwing took a bit of a gamble and jumped out of the boat and attacked Harley Quinn in close combat. He didn't have any effort remaining because he'd only just come back from unconscious. Harley Quinn put 2 effort in from her part to reduce his attack pool, and was able to take out, with her defensive rolls, managed to take out all of the incoming damage bar the strength die. So 4 points of damage altogether against her, 2 for her efforts and 2 from the strength die being successful. Was not sufficient to knock her out. That was the gamble that Nightwing took. He really needed to get a little bit lucky. If he could have taken her out, there would have been an arrest coming as well from his special action, and that would have meant that another 3 points would get them off the streets, but it was not the case. He did not get to play that card, and she does not get to go unconscious. So let's move on to the Suicide Squad. Harley Quinn activated and popped down and moved all the way down here. She has a very, very high movement value, and she put down a suspect marker which she turned into a stinky fish with it doesn't look fresh for 2 victory points. Tricky for this to be stopped, but we'll see, won't we? And it's the Suicide Squad able to act with more or less impunity now that there's just 1 model left to go on the Batman crew's side. Red Robin did have some options to make. He could actually have engaged his Batclaw and moved all the way down here and picked up the stinky fish to deny the victory points to the Suicide Squad. But there's only 2 points to deny. He can actually make them up by going into the ship, revealing the suspect marker with his detective skill whilst being out of line of sight behind the crate here, and scoring comb through everything for 2 points towards his own team score. So yeah, and it means he's less exposed. He is still holding the valuable commodities, so not dying is important for him. Moving over here may even have brought him in range of Katana, so didn't want to do that. Okay, let's finish off the turns activations with the Suicide Squad and see what tricks they've got still to play. Okay, easy enough to report just to finish things off. First of all, Deadshot activated and finished off Nightwing with his handguns. He could have actually gunned the hero down, but switched to non-lethal ammo again to score 2 more victory points and showboat a little just for those extra points. And easy peasy. And finally, Katana moved down here and played another snitch from the hand. Lovely. There you go, 3 points. As we've seen a few times before this game on either side. So yeah, there you go. That's that. We'll just go to the recount phase and see who's polished off those last few who's just wrapped things up, shall we? And then I'll go to the final count after that. Okay, yeah, just recount this quickly. So the Stinky Fish and the Snitch both score in the last bit of this phase for the Suicide Squad. Both sides have valuable commodities, Katana holding it for the Suicide Squad and Red Robin for the Bat family. So both sides score their respective valuable commodities. Okay, I think it's pretty clear who's got this one. But let's go see what the margin of victory is, and never know, maybe there's a surprise. Right, I believe I'm holding the Suicide Squad score pile here, so let's get this going. We've got 2, 4, 6, 9, 11, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 23, 26. A respectable score for the Suicide Squad. 26, sort of standard I think for me, and pretty good. We'll see how the Bat family did. So Bat family with 3, 5, 8, 10, 13, 15, 18 points. So 18 points plays 26. That's a solid victory, I'd say, for the Suicide Squad, and borne out pretty much by the actions on the board as well. So no real surprises there. It was not the Bat family's day. Let's put it that way. They lost some crucial die rolls. They were gambling taking those die rolls, and they knew it. So yes, nonetheless, the Suicide Squad did much better showing than they did in the previous game against the Court of Owls. I think this matchup was much more to their taste. Both of these teams, I think, are kind of, I always have them in mind of taking on, actual proper full-fledged crews involving henchmen and like powerful bosses and stuff like that. So rather than like otherwise taking on, teams of their own ilk, so small, low model count, high powered models. But it was fun. This was certainly a fun game. I love the personalities. That's why I play this game. To be honest, I don't. This is out of skirmish games. For the DC, they got the DC license. Might as well play with the personalities that you know, rather than nameless henchmen. It's much more fun to me, but that's personal preference. Yes, again, we will be seeing these teams again in the future, and I will be trying to use them against more standard crews, of course, especially Suicide Squad. They haven't really had a good game against a standard crew yet. The Court of Owls was a bit of an odd one for me. I wasn't even sure of their rules either. But yeah, we'll carry on. I hope you enjoyed this game. I certainly did. Very fun, and I do apologise if it's a bit briefer than usual. I just didn't have that much time to record today, but I really wanted to get one in the can, and this gives me a chance to do something a bit different. I will see you again for another game in the future. Please let me know if you enjoyed this game, if you didn't enjoy this game, if there's anything I got wrong, certainly, and yeah, maybe anything you'd like to see in the future as well. I've got plenty of crews to go, and there's lots more to come, trust me. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the game. Take care and bye-bye.